everyone. Hi. My name's Adam. I'm from the No Limits Collective. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today, especially to share the stage with Ricardo. Of course, that was amazing. Dr. Ian, and the great panel that will be coming up after this. So I just want to talk a little bit about today. About my journey and the No Limits Collective. I'm the founder of something called the No Limits Collective, and what it is a group of small builders that are coming together to try and solve accessible housing. We all know that we need more accessible housing in our communities, but do we know why? Why don't we have accessible housing in our communities today? And when I talk about housing, I'm not talking about apartments or condos or group housing. I'm talking about individual buildings. My presentation is called Absolutely Select the Small Stuff, because I believe that no one is really working at that level, at the 1 and the 2 level. And it's my belief that enough individuals doing one at a time can make a massive difference and really take away stigmas and break down barriers for accessible housing. So why don't we have accessible housing? Well, it's through my experience that it can only boil down to one thing, one big thing about why we don't have accessible housing, and that's because our homes have basements. Basements are the reasons why our homes are not accessible. But how did I get there? How did I get from starting from scratch, essentially, coming out of school, to standing here right now? Well, a long time ago, when I finished my degree in law, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I just happened to find a job in carpentry. So I started out in carpentry, learning how to be a finishing carpenter. So that's doors and moldings, sort of the next step. And I had a passion for business, so I started my own company right away, which basically just meant me with a tool belt on, making very little money. And I really learned and had some tough years and learned, but then my big break came a few years later when we secured a contract to do all the finishing carpentry for a large residential home developer. And their specialty was 55 plus homes. So we all know 55 plus communities, we see them around, well, what are they? So I was working right in those places and helping build those homes. So a 55 plus home, our definition in our society is a bungalow. Sometimes a duplex bungalow, so 2 bungalows side by side, or sometimes just a freestanding bungalow. That's our 55 plus home. Well, these homes had 4 to 6 steps to the front door, 4 to 6 steps from the garage into the house, and of course, if you want to go into the basement, 16, 17, 18 steps. They didn't have wider doors, and they didn't have a barrier-free bathroom. There was really nothing about them that was accessible at all. But at the time, I didn't really realize it. I just knew that something wasn't quite working. I met a lot of the people that were moving into these places, and I would think, it's not going to be long until that house is no longer functional for them. Really what it did for me was just sort of kindle my love for building, and I continued to do that. And I always knew that I wanted to build a home one day. Be a home builder one day. I just really caught on to the love. And unfortunately, the law thing just wasn't going to work for me. So I decided to really dig in with the building. I got into renovations. How do you learn to build things? It's trial and error, really. So I got into renovations, and that's where you can really learn how homes are built, how to change things, and especially how to problem solve. So I learned how to do everything: tiling, flooring, drywall, cabinets, you name it. And I loved it. And as I was working through these things, my grandparents were aging, as they do, and they lived in a bungalow, a 55 plus bungalow. And my grandpa was getting less and less sure on his feet. And then one day he had a fall. He fell down the steps and ended up in the hospital. Leading up to this point, we were trying to find them a place to go. We knew their home was becoming dangerous, right? And everyone was in the family was a little bit stressed, knowing that grandma and grandpa are probably one fall away from something bad happening. But the thing was with my grandparents, and this is something that I see, a huge sentiment that I see in the communities and in the people that I visit with, is that they didn't want to live with other people. They didn't want to live in an apartment. They didn't want to live in a condo. They didn't want to be in a retirement center. They wanted to remain independent. So we still looked, but there was nothing for them, right? And they're very proud people. They refused the ramp. They refused the lift, right? They wouldn't move. So in the end, my grandpa fell, and these things that we feared would happen happened. He's in the hospital, and they say he won't be able to walk again without assistance. So now what do we do? So the family came together and decided, and talked with my grandma, and say, you know what, we have to find you a place to stay. There's no choice now. And this is what happens with so many families. There's no choice now. So now you're forced into something. So we found them a nice retirement home, beautiful place, great facility. But we didn't tell my grandpa right away. And he was in the hospital for quite a while, and then when we were getting close to the time he could leave, we told him and said, hey, look, you can't go back to your home. It's not safe. You can't be there by yourself. You can't go in. You can't go out. So we found this nice place, and we showed him it's beautiful. It's got amenities, and it was very, very nice. And everything seemed okay. Came to terms with it. Seemed okay. So one afternoon, he moves. My grandma's already there. His stuff's already there. Great. And I'm not too sure what happened, but I think it just didn't really sink in. It's hard to know, but the next morning he woke up, my grandpa did, in his new home, and he got very upset. He got very upset that I think it sunk in, right? Like fully sunk in. So I was here, and now I'm here. What does that mean for me? What does that mean for my life? He got really, really worked up, and unfortunately he had a heart attack and passed away. Spending less than 24 hours in this place, this nice new facility. So, as a family, we went through stages. You go through grief, and then you go to guilt. Was this the right thing to do, right? But finally, I ended up on the feeling of anger. Anger that this is how it was. Anger that I'm in an industry that could have prevented something like this from happening. I'm with professionals all the time. We're all working together, and yet something like this is still happening today, all the time. This is sort of our societal funnel where people eventually have no choice but to be pushed into something they don't want to go to. So that, combined with my experience, was really sort of the driving force. There was a flame inside of me, and that anger, it's not a punch the wall in anger, it's something that's sort of inside your core. Like this is, I don't tolerate this. This is unacceptable. This can't be how it is. So shortly after that, that's when I moved into action. I got my builder's license. It's a big process, and we built our first home. So what did we build? Right? Pretty hypocritical when you build what everybody else is building. We built something called a hobby loft. And I know you don't know what that is. That's kind of the idea. We built something that is, by its definition, it meets a minimum level of accessibility. So we have 5 things. So it has level entry, and that's no steps, no ramps. No lifts, no ramps. Obviously, no steps. Has level entry to all entrances and exits to the home. Has minimum 3-foot wide doorways everywhere, 5-foot turning radiuses in all the major living areas, at least one barrier-free bathroom, and a hobby loft is actually 2 stories. So it always comes with either an elevator, a residential elevator, not a stair lift, or it comes with an elevator shaft. So the idea is we do 2 walk-in closets stacked on top of each other, has all the electrical there, and then there's a floor in between them, but at any point in the future that floor can be removed and the equipment brought in without a major renovation. It's actually fairly simple because it's all there. Our hope and our belief is that the hobby loft can be something that just comes into our lexicon. So there's different types of boxes, different things you can build, right? There's a duplex, a single detached home, bungalow. Well, what is the accessible version, right? So instead of saying I'm modifying a bungalow, I'm modifying a duplex, or I'm modifying this and modifying that, we want our own box. Because trying to put our square peg, which is accessible housing, into the round hole that is traditional housing, it's difficult. It's difficult because of the practices around it, and it's difficult because of the bylaws that govern it. So we're trying to work uphill against the streams. And then I start to see, like, oh, okay, like, now I can kind of see why this is very, very difficult. Like, at first, I was like, I don't get it. And then now I can see, because it is more difficult. And probably because we don't have a box. So what makes a hobby loft different, and how are we able to overcome the biggest barrier to accessibility, which is basements and steps? So I brought some props here with me today. We're not going to get super technical, but I just wanted to show you guys sort of what I'm talking about and why basements are sort of the biggest impediment to accessibility. So, does anyone know why we have basements? You passed the cross line, that's right. So the reason why we have basements, I'm going to go over 3 reasons. The biggest one is because of our climate. So every year in the winter, the ground freezes, right? Well, when something freezes, it expands. So we just put our houses right on the ground with nothing to anchor it below the frost line. So basically the ground freezes up to, say, 4 feet. It's probably like 3 feet in Calgary, or like 6 feet in Edmonton, which is basically Arctic. So the ground freezes and it expands. So if something's on top of that, it's going to lift up. And in the spring, it's going to go down. And every year, it's going to go up and down, up and down. So you can imagine if you have nice cabinetry that have like 1/16 of an inch hairline tolerances, swing doors, all these things. You don't want them to move. It messes it all up, right? So what do? Well, we dig down below that. So a basement has to go a minimum of 6 feet below grade, below basically the top of your dirt. And the idea is then the frost isn't under your home, it's just beside it. So it goes up and down, but my house is isolated, it's there. So that's the first reason we have basements. The second reason is, people want that living space, right? You want that living space and you want storage, these type of things. So there is some practicality there. But why does building a basement make your home inaccessible? Well, if you think about it, a basement wall, let's say it's 8 feet. I'm going down to 6 feet. Well, right away, this is my basement wall here. Good. This is my basement wall, my concrete. This is 2 feet. So right away, I'm 2 feet above the ground. So I go minimum down 6 feet. Why would I go deeper? It's just more expensive. I gotta go minimum 6 feet below the frost line. I'm gonna go 6 feet. I got 2 feet up. So already I'm out of the ground. This is my floor system. So it's a wood floor. The wood floor sits on top of your foundation wall. So this is representing a rim joist, and these are my floor joists here that support our main floor. A wood floor is about 12 inches tall, or 12 inches thick, at least. So already I'm at 3 feet out of the ground. Well, 3 feet already equates to 4 steps. And when we build a ramp, so that the ramp, the ideal ramp, and this is 2C, but the ideal ramp is for every foot you go out, run, you go 1 inch up. So every foot out, 1 inch up. So at 3 feet, that's 36 feet of ramp. So right away here, just to get from the ground to the top of my floor, I need 36 feet of ramp. So when you put it something like that, it seems kind of ridiculous, right? But it goes even further, because this is my basement window. So of course, if you have living space in the basement, you're going to want natural light. You need, if you have a bedroom down there, well, you need windows. It's part of the code. But nobody wants deep window wells. In fact, nobody wants window wells at all anymore. So now we're trying to get up as high as possible to get the most amount of light into our basements, which seems also kind of ridiculous if you think about it. So if I go down, if I push my basement down, the window's going to go with it. All of a sudden, I've got these deep, deep window wells, and you look out the window and you're just looking at a piece of metal, right? Which is the window well. So generally, I'm seeing this 3 feet. It's actually more like a minimum. Because I said an 8-foot wall, most basements now are 9 feet. Right? So you have 9-foot ceilings in basements. So now I'm up to 4 feet. Think how big of a ramp. Like it keeps going and going, right? And you can get 60, 70, 80 feet of ramp. It's just not practical. So houses are getting higher. Houses are getting less and less accessible. So what do we do about it? So a hobby loft doesn't have a basement. How do we do that? What about this whole frost line you said, right? You go to your house, and all around. So what we do, this is my prop. I ran out of prop money. So what do? We do what's called thickened edge slab on grade. It's a technical term, with screw piles. And what it allows us to do, if you can picture a bungalow, for example. So everybody knows what a bungalow is. I just say it, you can picture it in your head. Picture if I took that bungalow and I just lifted it up out of the ground, and I put it on the ground. Still has 2 stories, still has all that basement space we want, except that it's not in the ground. So when we do that, now our main floor is no longer wood, it's concrete. So we lift everything up, and our basement concrete floor comes all the way to the top. So I don't need this. And because I don't have any windows anymore for the basement, I don't have to worry about window wells. I don't have to worry about light getting it underground. So I get rid of this. I need to answer this. And I get rid of the 2 feet of basement wall, and I end up with something like this. 4 to 6 inches, and that's it. But I still have the same amount of living space if the bungalow is our 55 plus solution, right? So how do we support this? Like I said, it's just sitting on the ground. Well, literally like back in the 1830s, like forever ago, screw piles were invented. And why we don't use them, I don't know. But essentially what we do is, if this is a screw pile is a big steel pipe, it's got a helix on the bottom, it's a screw. We use machines, put it in the ground, and we start to drill it down. And it starts to go down, down, and here. Each screw pile needs to be engineered. So each screw pile has to, the engineer looks at the weight of the structure and says, okay, every 4 feet, you're going to need a screw pile, and this one's going to be this size, and this one's going to be this size, and this one's going to be this size. It's much more thought out than just digging down 6 feet and plunking something on it. We take the screw pile, it has to go down a minimum of 10 feet, minimum. And the idea is you're looking for that hard area in the ground. So, all our earth has layers, you're trying to find the hard layer. It might be at 10 feet, it might be at 12, it might be at 18, it might be at 25, but you find it. And we just keep adding extensions. So we screw down, you add an extension, screw down. The idea is that as we're screwing, in the machine, you can see how difficult it is to turn. And there's a certain torque we have to hit. And once you do, you can stop. But you're embedding this pile into a hard layer of ground. Say it's 18 feet. So they're all going down approximately 18 feet, and we have to show and issue a report on every single one. Whereas basements, there are no reports. There is no engineering. You just follow the standard protocols. My engineer has allowed me to go on record and use his comments to say it's the best residential foundation you can do structurally. So the idea now is when the concrete is poured, we use rebar to attach to the screw pile, that basically attaches the concrete as we pour it to the scoop pile, makes it all one thing. So now your concrete slab is not sitting on the ground, it's actually sitting on the hard layer that's 18 feet down. So you can actually take out 5 feet of earth underneath the house. It still won't go anywhere. It's essentially on stilts with ground in between. So now the ground can do what it wants underneath. And the house itself remains solid, doesn't move. It's still like a tank, doesn't move. So we've solved, it's sort of an obvious solution, but nobody does it, right? Because it's just not what we do. And then we come back to our box, right? So the way we've always built houses. We started doing houses with basements in the early 50s. The houses we build now are the same as the houses we built in the 50s. We haven't evolved. They're way more energy efficient, for sure. But the actual methods that we build them with, the foundations, it's the same, which seems really silly. So the No Limits Collective is trying to take this concept of the hobby loft, work through a lot of these things, these challenges of working with different municipalities, trying to create our own lofts, and we want to then engage other builders, other small builders in other places and say, hey, did you know that you can do something like this too? But that's really only one part of it. And I wouldn't be here today without the support of the people in this group. So doing something new is not smart financially. You know, it's generally financial suicide, right? Every time you do something new, you're pushing against the grain. It's the community support that is important, you know, and for the learning and for just the encouragement and the motivation. So you'd say, well, Adam, how come we can't just put our basements deeper? Why can't we just, what if someone just wanted the deeper window up and they said, you know what, just lower the house down? And I would say to that, they better have a lot of money. Because as soon as we do that, you increase, our system isn't set up for that either. So say I took my basement, I went down 9 feet, and I lowered my floor all the way down, so it's just 6 inches above the grade. And you say, okay, great. The problem is that our infrastructure is set up for that. So the sewer, the main sewer that runs along your road, is say only 9 feet deep. Well, I'm 9 feet deep, and it's 9 feet deep. That's bad, right? It means like things want to flow back towards you. So now you have a pump system, and you have all these different things, and in general, it's just a massive amount of money. A, because of the work involved, but B, because nobody does it and nobody knows how to do it. And anytime in construction someone says the word custom, that means an additional 20% guarantee, right? Because they don't know. They're hedging themselves. They want to make sure that their costs are covered. So we want to teach other builders. But that's only one part of it. The builder, in our opinion, needs to be supported with the communities that they're trying to champion for, right? So why would they do it too? And that's why my relationship with Spinal Cord Injury Alberta has been so amazing and rewarding, because it's very easy just to say this is too difficult. You know, we're not making money, but it's that support that really that keeps you moving forward. Ultimately, I still have that fire inside me. I do this because a couple reasons, but I do it for my grandpa, of course. I do it because I'm an entrepreneur. And Ricardo is a great example as well, where we are. Entrepreneurs want to solve a problem. An entrepreneur sees a problem, they have a vision, they want to solve it, but they need help, right? They need a team, they need support. And I'm lucky that I have an amazing and supportive, incredibly patient wife who is, you know, supporting me through this journey, because it's a learning curve. Nobody teaches you, in residential housing, nobody teaches you how to build an accessible house. The literature is not there. And every municipality is different. Every municipality has different rules, and they all have their biases towards standard home construction. And I also do it because I enjoy it and because of the people I met in this room. I've come to realize that persons in the spinal cord injury community are mentally some of the strongest people I've ever met. Obviously, as an able-bodied person, it's impossible for me to know. But empathy is a huge part of our core value. And again, I want to thank everybody for that support. There really is a blue flame fire that burns in me. I can see the vision, but it's still one step at a time. We are building hobby lofts, and they're beautiful, right? So a home that is accessible. Imagine a world where someone comes up to you and says, actually, yeah, we actually just purchased a hobby loft. And you think, oh, that's weird, they're able-bodied people. No, we just purchased a hobby loft, and we love it. Like, oh, like because of the accessibility features? They're going to say, well, what do you mean? That's when you know you've created something, right? It's its own thing. It's its own beautiful thing. It has these 5 minimum accessibilities, and you can always, of course, go beyond. So everything we do is unique. Every person's needs are unique. Some people need grab bars, some don't. Some people need high counters, some need low counters. So you want to be able to have that flexibility. And the great thing about those small jobs, you can do that. There is no government body saying, hey, hold on, it has to be exactly 6 inches, it has to be exactly this exact. Residential is free flow. We just need to get in the door, right? Like, we just need to get in the door. We need to show that something like this can be beautiful, take away those stigmas, and I think we'd be really onto something. And municipalities hopefully can get on board and create that box. Something that's accessible, something that's just its own thing. Like, what the heck is a bungalow? Like the word. What is it, right? Where did that come from? So my passion burns, my anger burns, I'm still angry, but I think I can see the future, and I hope that today I lit a small spark in you guys as well. Thanks so much.